It's the Stranger Nerds here. We have Season 2, Chapter 4, Will the Wise. So, gentlemen, we have myself, Connor Vandermark, we have Mitchell Lee, Nick Izzo, and Tommy Grant here.
What's
And
up?
things are getting interesting. There is some escalation of our plot lines that we're seeing, and the ball is now rolling of this whole story that we're seeing in this second season. Any intro thoughts on this episode, gentlemen?
So this is in my opinion, one of my more favorite episodes, and how me and Mitchell have explained this season definitely being the weaker of the seasons. It's weaker in the sense where it kind of goes up and down. It starts kind of the peak, then it drops down. This is where it peaks up again, and it holds it, and until another couple episodes, and that's me and Mitchell's definitely most hated episode. We'll get to that eventually. But this is definitely where things start picking up, and it's not a filler episode by any means. So
Yeah,
I
that's an
definitely
understatement.
like this one. So this is definitely one of the stronger points of the season. So I hope you guys enjoyed it.
No, I really liked it. I thought it was a very fun episode, and it was a lot of like, at least to me, like nice twists and turns. I'm like, oh, and it definitely got some reactions out of me out of this one, and I have some things on my note here that I thought that really piqued my interest as this episode went through.
Yep.
I liked it
And
because
it
I didn't
definitely
have to
sets
see
things
Nancy
up.
as much.
Yeah.
I guess
Hey,
that she
Team
wasn't
Anti-
in this one quite as
we're
much, but I
going
will.
there. We're going there already. I'm tired of her. I'm on the team
Yeah,
of
I get it.
just can we just not?
She's a bit of an annoying character, but I will defend Nancy in the fact that she does get shit done. She does get shit done. She's definitely trying to be proactive and not be shy and held back like she was in season 1. And you'll see her become a little bit more of a badass throughout the season, but I can see why you don't like her as a character, but she definitely becomes a better character and a better version of herself. She's just in that awkward stage. It's just a love triangle aspect that really dampens her character in the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like
All right,
if she wasn't tied down by Steve or Jonathan and actually thrived, like she'd probably be a much better character.
yeah, but sometimes
probably.
sometimes you
No
are
argument from me.
Seen as the people who yeah, sometimes you're seen as the people who you associate with. So.
Yep. So you guys want to dive right into this?
Let's dive on in, because
Right.
my first thought of this intro scene was, what the fuck? That's leave my notes.
I had similar reactions. Yeah.
Yeah, because like seeing that that smoke, wherever that thing is, go into Will was very what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say giving a rise, getting a rise out of the audience isn't the right word I'm looking for, but like kind of like a spectacle in a way, where it's like everything's going inside of him. He's like suffocating. Looks like he's convulsing in the field. It was very much a very tight tension. Like there was palpable tension in that scene to me.
So I'm glad you think that, Connor, because I will side with what Mitchell said earlier on the show in saying that Noah Schnapp is definitely the weak link of the kid actors. And I have mixed feelings on this scene. It's a very cool scene, but I think it's the special effects that saved it. Mm-hmm. Because if you really watch that scene and focus on what Noah Schnapp is doing, he's standing perfectly still and just fluttering his eyes.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's just I felt like it was just such a weird. I don't know if he was trying to pretend to have a seizure, like if that's what he was trying to act like he was doing, or if maybe he was just directed to just simply stand there and flutter his eyes. I'm not quite sure. But if you take the special effects out of it and just look at him, that's all he's doing. And you see the camera movement. You barely see a single shot of him himself. They're just doing constant flash cutscenes to him because I think he's doing such a shitty job of acting like he's being attacked by a ghost monster. But that's how I saw it. So I'm glad, Connor, that's the question for you. You liked it.
I have to say, Connor and Nick, you will see this as it goes on. Some of the kid actors start out really good and stay really good. Some of them get better as the seasons go on. And there's one or two that I think peak when they're younger and don't improve. And I don't want to give things away. I will get to more specifics when the time comes. Noah Schnapp is just one that was always bad as far as I am concerned. And one of the biggest strengths of season 1, in my opinion, is that while you hear a lot about Will Byers, you don't see a lot of Will Byers. You don't have Noah Schnapp really doing a lot of acting in season 1. And I think that is a strength of the first season. And the second season, it's just kind of there. You realize guy can't really act. And fortunately for him, he's in scenes with Winona Ryder a lot of the time, who's giving it her all and turning in great work.
Speaking of Winona Ryder and Joyce, to be specific, we pick up immediately after the end of last episode, and we just see they were very specific in showing the speed limit sign on the street, and Joyce is just flying down. No regards to the kids in the street or on the side. She's just gunning it. And I feel like Joyce has practiced this route multiple times. Like, she just goes out in the middle of the night and like Mario Karts it to see how fast can I get to school if there's an emergency, because she pulled in too smoothly to have done this for the first time.
Just like we did in practice, baby. Perfect execution.
Because of how paranoid Joyce is all the time, I feel like she's
at the school at this point.
It's that same tracks in the mud that she pulled up in.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. She's done this before.
It probably is.
This is the pre-cut course.
Freaking running time trials.
That's my thought exactly. But it was just a funny scene, just seeing her fly down the street. And obviously, it's supposed to be more of a serious scene to show urgency. But I just thought it was a funny scene. But going back to Will and the smoke monster, it was a very cool scene visually, and I think the visual effects team did a great job with it, because watching it for the first time is a very emotionally intense scene. But when you have seen the whole show and know how poor of an actor Noah Schnapp is, it's almost a little comical the next time you watch it, with the exception of the Shadow Monster, because it is pretty badass. But
like,
Will,
I thought.
No, go ahead.
I thought that, again, this is my first time ever seeing this scene.
Yeah.
So like, to me, like, director wise, I enjoyed it because the fact that it really gave us concrete evidence that Will is living in between the worlds.
Yes.
And the fact that he isn't, like, I know it could be like a thing where it could be a thing like, oh, he's not, like, you know, he should be seizing. But to me, I'm on the side that I think that him seizing will make it look weirder, because the fact that we can see that he's being engulfed by, or almost engulfed, not even the right word. Like, it's this smoke monster is going inside of him, and he's, to me, paralyzed. No, yeah, the eyes are fluttering, but like, you see him, you know, you're to the everybody else is like, what the hell is he doing? He's just standing there. But on the flip side, he's going through such a traumatic event of someone possessing his body, pretty much. And I personally liked the way.
And if that's what they were going for, then yeah, he did a great job of just standing perfectly still and fluttering his eyelids. I just thought it looked silly.
Sometimes you have to do that.
I know. It's just like it's you get the flash of like him being attacked, and then you go back to the flash of him just standing still, just barely moving his head. I was like, come on. I was like, you could like get a little bit more seizure action in there, just like make it look like you're being thrashed around a little bit. But
a little bit more seizure action. I don't think I've ever heard that one before.
I don't know how to describe it, but just make it look more intense.
Around, though, it just would have been more special effects at the same time.
Yeah. But
It could have been a thing too with the special effects that if he was moving, it wouldn't be as successful.
And that can be the reason why, because when I was reading up on how they did it, they actually built almost like a little train track for the camera around him, and they had a green screen around him. So they basically had the camera on a little cart, and they just simply rode around in a circle around him filming it, which I thought was kind of a little cool way how they film it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But anyway, so we move on. So Will finally snaps out of it, and Joyce kind of walks him away, and the party's like kind of standing there in shock and kind of realizing like these episodes are getting worse, and they're just not ready to disclose like what's actually going on to Max, because Max is seeing this happen too, and she's kind of like the rest of the world where like they know there's something wrong with Will and he has these episodes. They don't know what's causing it though, whereas and she's kind of picking up like it's not just like a seizure, like there's something else going on. But I just thought I was waiting for someone to kind of just break and tell her exactly what was going on. Which is definitely going to put strain on people like Lucas who are trying to become friends with Max. But it's definitely building up more tension having Max around for all these things happening. And
yeah.
And then Will's starting to claim to like not remember what's happening, and you start to question like, is he still lying to his mom, or are we starting to see this monster take a hold on him and actually block out what's going on? Which I think would be a very cool thing for them to do, because he definitely does look confused when he's talking to his mom, but I thought he was lying when he said he didn't remember. And then we get the more of the Noah Schnapp bad acting, in my opinion, when Joyce finally gets through to him, and he just gives that line of like, "I felt it everywhere, everywhere." And I was thinking just like, just the delivery of the lines, I just wasn't. I don't think it was serious enough. It just, I couldn't take it seriously, and I think it's just because Mitchell got in my head about how bad Noah Schnapp is an actor. So now every time I watch him, I'm just criticizing what he does. So
well,
thank you,
one,
Mitchell,
I'm sorry for doing that, first of all, because I know that once someone tells you something like that, it can be a lot more noticeable. But
Yes.
also, it's kind of hard to not notice because they did a tremendous job of finding kid actors, and yeah, just not up to par. But I'm sorry that I did that to you, man. That's on me.
It's okay. It allows me to rewatch the show in a new light, and it's just, I don't know. I have nothing else to say on Noah Schnapp at
But
the moment.
if we're talking about Noah Schnapp's character and his character arc, the whole thing with him, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself with the whole like he likes it cold or something like that when they just try to get him heated up. I did think that was interesting in that we've never seen Will kind of be occupied.
So I will take back everything I said about Noah Schnapp because of those scenes, because we definitely see him kind of give the ability of now he has to act possessed as well, like act in favor of the monster and not just this poor little kid. And I have to say that scene when Joyce was drawing him the bath and he's just standing like, he likes it cold. I'm like, oh shit! Like,
I thought that was decent. I think that if you really want to be on the Noah Schnapp is bad train, wait a few seasons. But I think that that scene, good work. I bought that.
I just like what, like as a parent now, if I like, I'm just like visualizing that scene now as a dad. Like, if my kid just said that to me one day, like, what the fuck did you just say? Like, what?
Would that be your official response?
You're gonna have those moments, Tommy.
I swear, because like, if Josie ever like sees something in the house or like just starts like looking at something or talking to something, I don't know how I will handle that scene. Other than just like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
handle that scene?
yes. that scene.
Josie,
If
Josie
I have
comes
a kid,
down the stairs. I'm possessed. Tommy just goes, cut. Hey,
cut, you're fired. Get out.
Can we get a more believable actress in here?
I am going to go buy a bottle of holy water, splash it on you, and leave the house. Maybe burn it down behind me. I don't know.
Oof.
I don't do things that I can't hit. And if my child's possessed, I can't hit my child, and I can't fight a demon. So that's my only action. But hopefully that never comes to that. But that whole scene with Will just be like,
Your only
he
action
likes
to
it
burn
cold.
the
I'm
house.
like, even the look on Joyce's face is like, what the fuck did you just say?
I think it was more so. I know we're kind of jumping around here, but like, the way he said, like, he emphasized he though was like he likes it cold. I'm like, what? Did you just say he?
Yes.
What? Third person.
And so like the way he said it, it
Did
could
you
be
want the
taken as
demon to
two
be
ways.
female?
It could be Will simply being controlled by the monster, but the monster is talking as Will, or it could be the monster saying he, as in Will likes it cold. It can be seen as either two ways, the way it was said, in my opinion.
To me, it was Will talking about the monster likes it cold.
Yeah,
that's how I took it as. It was like, because
but he almost had like a possessed type voice to him. That's why I was a little like unsure of who was speaking and who were they speaking for.
I guess so. I can definitely see that.
I personally thought it was the monster or whatever is controlling said monster, because he just seemed way too possessed, at least to me.
Yeah, and I think that was the whole point of the scene. Where there's kind of like supposed to like, hey, he's possessed, but we don't know how in control this monster is. But I mean, that definitely, it's a big chunk of this episode is seeing Will kind of flip back and forth between regular Will and possessed Will. And even during that scene, we have a little flashback or flash across, I guess, if you will, to the science class where Mr. Clark is giving a lecture about the state of fear, and they keep flashing back to Will. That I thought was a cool scene when they're talking about how like your body has natural fear, reactions to things that is danger, and it's fear. And you see Will staring at a hot bathtub, and it's like it just alludes to everything. You're like, oh shit, like something's going on with Will. And of course, we saw things with Dart in the last episode, who doesn't like the hot.
Yeah, it's a good connection there. Once I'm looking at the show doc now.
I prefer Phineas Gage.
I didn't make the connection with Dart.
So it makes you think, what's the connection between the little Dart and this big mind flayer type shadow monster? Are they the same species, or what's controlled by what? But there's definitely a similarity between the two, which is definitely important to look at.
Well, with that, like, you can think of the environment they live in the first place. No, from what we've seen at the Upside Down, it is very much a dark place that is, to us, at least to me, it feels like it does seem like a colder environment. No, not much sunlight, not much like no. It is a radioactive area, but I'm saying like radiation from the sun, like no, or like irradiating, as in like warmth coming from something. So I can definitely see, because they are entities of the same world, they both have that. No, they both adapted to the ecology that they will, I guess, they lived in. So,
So moving forward on the Will storyline, so we get Hopper showing up at the house, and even he notices it's freezing in the house now. So either Joyce or Will, one of the two, has lowered the temperature in the house, probably to the point of freezing. And he's just walking around just without a shirt on, just chilling. And it's definitely Will is kind of controlling the house at this point. So I don't know if Joyce called Hopper over, or how Hopper got there, or why, but
it was because Hopper had to do it 11 because he was pissed at her.
Yep.
And then that morning, he got the radio from the secretary and he's like,
Oh, that's right.
She's called 8 times, Hopper. You got to deal with her.
That's right. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you
And then
for
and
her
he's,
sake.
he's like, all right. And then he gets in there like, oh, this is weird.
It seems like the Byers house becomes that staple piece for the show, where each season just some character is going to come to the house and the house is just going to be in a weird state of affairs. Last season it was the Christmas lights.
Yep.
This season is possessed Will walking around without a shirt on. But they start talking and we get to see a little bit more insight about how Will's reaction to having this monster inside him and what is actually going on with him. And he starts kind of talking about how he has these memories and visions. So he's almost getting like double sight of his own personal memories and visions, but also he's seeing through the eyes of either the monster, the Demogorgons, or possibly all of them at this point. We don't really know. That I thought was a very interesting ability that he's been able to take on, and it kind of made me think of Harry Potter a little bit. For those who have seen it, where Harry Potter kind of sees Voldemort and what he's been doing because they're connected in the same way. Very similar to this, but Hopper's definitely starting to kind of get confused and concerned at this point, because I think he's realizing he's not having PTSD anymore. Like there's something actually wrong with him at this point. But so Will starts drawing all these pictures, and they realize Hopper and Joyce are kind of realizing it's a puzzle, so they kind of start putting them together.
Hold on,
And
I want to say, hold on, before you get any further, I want to say,
yes,
like, I know you guys been like, at least to my experience on doing this podcast, that you guys been pumping Hopper's tires of like, oh, he's being detective work and stuff. Joyce is the one who's catching on real quick. Joyce was like, oh, it's a puzzle, or Joyce one realizing, oh, in the video that looks like the outline that my son showed me. Like she has been really
Yeah.
like, she's been like sharp on catching these things like that's not right, or catching the, I guess, quote unquote clues that she sees, and she picks up on things really quickly.
and,
So that's something
and I
I
think
definitely
part of the
I want to give her
reason
props for that.
I think part of the reason that is because she is so paranoid and has been the complete helicopter parent over Will for the past year. She knows every little mannerism about him now. So if anything is off, she's gonna hone in on that and put all of her effort into figuring out what the hell it is. So now
But
they
it's like
have,
she's never
it's
gotten
the
comfortable.
creativeness too.
The entire time she's been uncomfortable.
yeah,
Yeah, that is very true. But like they have the composure to keep making that deductions though. Like for example, we didn't touch on it, but the name of the episode, Will the Wise, it
Yep.
comes with Joyce, realizing Will's not willing to talk. He's getting to, his emotions is overcoming him with what he's going through, and then Joyce sees the photo of the self portrait of Will the Wise that Will has made of himself through his D&D character. And he's like, "Oh, can you draw it for us?" And it clicked in Will. I'm like, "Oh, I could definitely do that. Like that's something that I can physically do for you all." And then then the whole puzzle thing happened. But like to have the idea of like giving him the different outlet of, no, here, try this instead, just try to communicate this way, that
Eh,
was very smart of her on her end.
especially because that is a very common technique used in therapy with children, because a lot of times either children are afraid to talk or just don't know how to communicate or just simply vocalize how they feel or what's going on. So they usually use pictures to kind of help correlate or kind of get a better idea of what's going on, so they know what kind of questions to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely showing how smart Joyce is as a person, who they show her as just a housewife and just, a working single mom, but she's a lot smarter than people give her credit for.
Yeah.
But So Hopper gets that realization after kind of Joyce leads Will into drawing all these pictures and realizing it's vines that he's drawing, and we kind of get a connection to the pumpkin patches and everything that's been going on. Like something's been affecting the whole area, and vines definitely relate to what's been going on. So Hopper kind of picks up on that. But at this point, I think we should hop over to 11 and Hopper's storyline at this point. If anybody has anything else to say about Will, speak now.
I have in the doc here. I just want to touch on it because at the very beginning of this whole thing, when the boys were talking and Max was on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
they do mention the idea that I guess Will's quote unquote power could be true sight.
Yes.
Which is again, if you didn't pick it up, it is D&D reference. And it pretty much is the ability to see into, as Justin did make a point, you can see into the ethereal plane. You can see secret doors that are hidden by magic, stuff like that. But it's and I think it's a very, for kids who don't know what's going on with Will at all, who are making educated guesses. It's a pretty damn good one. And no, the fact that he's kind of is like the flea walking on this on the flea and the acrobat, and the flea's walking the tightrope. He's Will's hanging sideways with it and living in both worlds right now.
And
So
it almost seems as if the party is almost using D&D as like a coping tool for what's been going on, because they're able to almost bridge the gap between their fantasy world and what's been going on with them and their friends. So it's definitely a good tool for them to use, and we see them use that a lot. And D&D right now is used more of a reference point, but when you get later on the show, it becomes a much bigger aspect of the show.
one thing I am curious about though, because they are leaning as it as a good I guess is allegory is the right word for this, like or analogy. I think they're very similar. I'm not sure what vocabulary.
Let's go with
Metaphor?
analogy. That sounds right.
Analogies, right? Using as an analogy in between both these worlds. I'm kind of curious if by them making a bad analogy could slip them up in the future.
Could.
So like if they think it is something like true sight and it turns out to be something completely different than what they're thinking, then I'm kind of curious how, like, if they will make a mistake because of that. Don't spoil anything, but this is me just
I'm just
bringing
trying
out
to think if there are any examples to give, but
bring out an ether. Not yet, at least if I can tell, but I'm just sputtering here.
Yep.
All right, so let's go on to 11 in Hoppa.
So 11, we get another kind of repeat of last episode where we just see more tension between 11 and Hopper. This one is much more intense, and we kind of see a more, almost, I don't want to say violent, but definitely a much more aggressive Hopper in his parenting style in this episode. And it's no more let's try and negotiate and work things out. It's just full on screaming match between the two of them. And we even see 11 kind of go to the dark side a little bit, where she's acting like a teenager with emotional problems that doesn't know how to process it. Hopper's trying to figure out, how do I keep my kids safe but also deal with a kid with fucking powers who can easily outpower me at this point, which 11 definitely proves. And then you get a little bit of a comical moment where Hopper just rips the TV out of the wall, and she just fucking loses it and snaps, because like the TV at this point is like her like only social aspect in this cabin.
Yeah,
which I don't think Hopper fully understands
like
either. Like,
yeah. The one of the notes I put into my phone was like, oh, like that TV is damn important to her, since it's like her only outlet to the outside world.
Yeah. And I really don't think Hopper understood that, because he's basically kept her a prisoner for this past year and she has nowhere else to go. And all she wants to do is see people, especially obviously Mike, but it's like the TV is the only way where she can physically see people, and it's on a TV. So Hopper definitely pulled a dick move on that one, but at the same time, I understand why he did it because he's trying to keep her safe. But then Hopper calls her a brat, throws the book at her. She throws it back using her powers, and then they get into a bit more of a fight, and then all of a sudden she just runs into her room, screams, and just all the windows in the cabin smash. So you definitely see her kind of amplifying her powers a little bit more too. And I think at that point Hopper kind of realized like I'm in over my head, and he kind of just leaves. But I was not a fan of Hopper in this episode. He was a little too aggressive, but he just lost his cool.
I didn't mind it because, again, like you mentioned, he didn't quite know what he was dealing with. He's never really had to really put the hammer down when it came to I don't know if punishment's the right word for this. But you started off, violent and scary. Nah, I don't know if I'd go that far. I absolutely would go that far. Could you imagine? Hopper is used to, he's a big dude. He's used to kind of being able to handle everything that way. And 11 is something that no one has ever really encountered before. So, and not to mention a teenager, preteen, either way, not the best at handling their emotions just yet. So it's a big wild card as to what's going to happen.
Not only is she a teenager, and that's when obviously hormones kick in and your emotions go through a whole nother roller coaster, but she grew up in basically a prison camp where she was constantly given negative reinforcement for not doing things.
Punishments were a completely different type of thing, and they usually involved something much worse.
And she kind of calls Hopper out on that a little bit too, and it was definitely a little bit more drastic when she was comparing him to Dr. Brenner. And even Hopper was taken back at that comment, kind of like, you compare me to that, psychotic son of a bitch. But at the same point, Hopper's physically kept her hostage there for a whole year. And the first time she acts out, he just loses his shit and just screams at her. Like, he has to realize, like, hey, like, this is not the way to get through to 11. Screaming and just taking things away, like, you need to, like, calmly talk to 11 and make her understand, like, this is what's going to happen. Tell her exactly what's going on. Tell her, hey, if you get caught, Mike could get killed. Like, you're putting Mike, if he simply switched around and say you're putting Mike's life in danger and not our lives in danger, that might get through to 11 a little better than just saying you're being stupid. You're breaking our only 3 rules. You can't even follow our rules. Because it's just
a good point, but it's also what he's been doing apart from the kind of flipping it like you just mentioned. It's kind of what he's been doing this whole time. He's kind of been like, hey, we need to follow these rules so that we can stay safe. And he's kind of been very calm with her about that. So I totally understand his need to turn things up a few notches.
Yeah. But
but the thing is, though, the time that he's bought from himself, I'm just using it as a turn of speech, but you can tell 11 is very much aware of how long she has not seen anyone else, and the consistency of Hopper staying pushing the ball down the road, or kicking the can down the road, as the figure of speech, and then because she's like, oh, on day 20 you said, oh, I can see Mike soon. Day 57 you said I'll see Mike soon, and so on and so forth. Like, she is getting so frustrated with the same non-answers that she's getting from Hopper, that as I don't know, how old is she, 12 in this? I don't know. Like,
I wrote this down somewhere. God damn it. I don't know if it was on this sheet,
but still,
I
like,
think
I
think they're 13.
Yeah, like 12,
I think they're a year older than what the season is. So I think in season 1 they were 12. Season 2 they're 13. So they're a year older than what the season is number wise, if that makes sense.
But like as an adolescent teenage girl, like, I can see her getting fed up with all these same answers from Hopper, and no real action that's being done. It's just
another thing that's psychologically fucking with her is the fact that every night, I think she's tuning into Mike every single night, because remember we saw
Yeah.
Mike's literally recording and talking to her every single night, and he says day such and such. So I think
Yeah.
11's really sitting there counting every single day that she
Good
hears
point.
Mike call out to her, and she can't go to him or even reach out and talk to him. She can see him, but he can't see her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really definitely probably playing a very heavy psychological toll on her that
Mm-hmm.
Hopper isn't realizing either. But so we
Yeah, I
see
didn't really like that
Hopper
from
roll off.
Hopper either.
No, not at all.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't want to cut you off. Yeah, no, because like, yeah, I didn't feel like he understood like her side of it. Kind of like what all you guys have said of culmination of all that. It's like she didn't have a normal childhood. She doesn't really know you know societal norms and like that type of, I guess, growing up. So when it comes to that, you know it's just like so
Yeah, and I
foreign, and he just does not know what to do.
that is a good point too, because if you think about it, the biggest physical indicator people know about this so-called Russian weapon in Hawkins is that it's a kid with a shaved head. She no longer has that shaved head, so she could technically go out in public and people would not recognize or think, "Oh, that's the shaved kid from the news everybody's talking about." But she doesn't have any sort of social norms to allow herself to fit in. And I think Hopper realizes that too. Like
Yeah.
she would stick out if she went out in public and talked to people. So that's a good point,
And
Nick.
because it's a small town, it's like everybody knows everybody. So it's like you see
Yeah,
this random
that's
girl just walking
that's
about the
another good
streets.
point too. Yeah,
It's like, oh, that's not so and so's kid. Like, who's that?
yeah, that's a. it almost makes you think of Rambo. How just some random dudes walking through town and the cops like, "Hey, this guy doesn't belong in this town," and they just go after him for no reason. But this town, I think, would be the
Yep.
same way. It's just like you see some random girl that you don't know walking through the streets. It's like people are gonna start asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
But so
Oh
shortly after that, Hopper leaves, and we see 11 kind of cleaning up the house and looking around, and she finds all these hidden boxes, and one's labeled Hawkins Lab. And she starts going through it, and lo and behold, she starts seeing pictures of her mother and Dr. Brenner. So she's all of a sudden cluing in, like, Hopper's been lying to me. Because in, was the last episode, I think?
Last episode, yes, yeah. I was asking about the book, and he's
Yeah.
reading the book to her. It's like, oh, do I have a mother? And uh, if I remember correctly, Hopper told her that she's gone,
Yep.
and like that's very much like a half truth in a way because like mentally she's kind of gone, but at the same time, I know Hopper is trying to protect her and not trying to gain those bonds because again, like it's just like another trigger of like, oh, I don't just want to see Mike, I want to see my mother.
Yep.
So I kind of get what he's getting at there, but again, like he's especially
He's
how
making decisions for her at this point that she doesn't realize.
and the
Which is
fact
all,
that and yeah, you're definitely right about that. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
no, you're fine.
The he for how long Hopper has been with 11 now, the fact that he still doesn't get how naive she is of like emotionally she acts like a teenager, but mentally she still has very mentally is not the right word, but she still has these very childlike conceived notions, especially like, oh, friends don't lie. Like you're literally breaking her trust when you realize when she realizes these things that you are lying to her. And no, I understand that you're trying to think of it is in her best interest, but at the same time, if you're gonna do it, you better cover your tracks and like
Yep.
and no, obviously no, the mother one, I'm kind of curious how that's going to backfire on him as well.
Yeah.
So,
It will definitely lead into Mitchell and I's most hated episode of the season, but I won't say anything more on that. So the
What
next
number
scene
episode
I
is that?
think was probably the most. I don't know off the top of my head. Hold on.
Or
Give
is
me
it
1
like
second to look at my chart.
is it like supposed to be a surprise that we don't know?
don't ruin anything. Just keep going.
Okay.
Nick, I will text you later for what episode it is. It doesn't give it away.
Sometimes
I'll
I
just
like
give
to
the
like
episode number.
'cause I don't. Yeah, I don't really get affected by spoilers.
It is.
It actually gets
It
me
is
like
chapter
more
7. I
amped to
won't
like
say
watch something.
anything about it. Yeah, it is
Okay.
chapter 7 of this season.
Cool.
But so this next scene is what I was looking forward to talking to Nick and Connor about, because this, watching it for the first time, has to be one of those like, what the fuck was this about? And that's when 11 uses her powers to find her mom, and we see her mom still uttering kind of nonsense words. And I wrote them down in case you guys weren't listening to them, but she's saying rainbow, 3 to the
3
right,
right,
4 to the
4
left, and then
Yep.
450. What do you guys? And after that, her mom actually focuses in on 11 and recognizes her, and
Jane.
and calls her Jane, and then disappears.
Yep.
What the
So-
fuck do you guys think was happening?
I think here, Nick, you go first in this one because
Oh,
Because I know we
right,
came up with a
throwing
bunch
the
of
ball in my
theories
court.
last season when we first came across her mom. So we're gonna have to fall back to those a little
honestly, I don't. I don't really know what that was. Like I've honestly kind of been trying to think about it since, but yeah, I mean when I saw it, I the first thing I thought was like, I don't know, just some sort of code for something, but I personally I don't know.
well, this is how I interpret it is. So since she went to the MK Ultra project, no, obviously there was, I guess, activities that she would done just like Elle worked on. Like Elle was
Mhm.
trying to figure out what the person was saying from a different room, and then spying on Russians and all that fun jazz. And to me, it was definitely, it's probably something that, no, if that's you bring it up now, it's probably going to come up in the future. But it was definitely something where, because of the fact that it's either A, that's something that the scientists drove into her brain for her to memorize, or something that she had to. There's another word too. You missed rainbow. That was another
I
one,
said
right?
rainbow, motherfucker.
Oh, the first one. First word is rainbow. I was looking at the script sheet. It was like, oh, in the front. I was reading, seeing the numbers and all that, and then the rainbow. So yeah, so it was definitely something where like either she was drilled in these words or something, or her herself memorized in
Kind of
the
like the
facility.
Winter Soldier program in the
Yeah.
MCU.
It's kind of similar like that, where I'm not like not her being a sleeper cell, but like more so, but her being trained in, or that, or on the flip side, more of a survival mechanism of like marker points of where she is and certain markers that she's at, like 3 right to the right could be doors, or even a turn like a security safe. Like there's different things it can be, but obviously something that from her past is ingrained. And
Okay.
then when she recognized, so obviously to me, from how I was seeing, she still has these powers because obviously she made eye contact with Elle. And I think that how it has to tie into it. There might be something in the upside down too that might have these indicators of that could be something in the upside down that could have something that could work. And then I think she died. I think after she saw Jane was her release from this kind of cycle she was in, and then that kind of relief made her pass away. That's my current prediction.
So she pulled a Yoda from Return of the Jedi, where Luke finally comes back and she's like, "Oh, nope, tapping out now."
Yep. That's a good way to put it. Actually, yeah, because well, Yoda's not like exactly, but like more so like
And they both actually disappear in the same way too,
like
into the
my
wind.
my child is alive. I am so grateful to actually see her face. I can move on into the no into the next world. That's how
I mean,
when I saw him, like, she's dead. She's real dead.
well, actually, to get more specific, is she officially fully brain dead and there's no sense of self left, or is she physically altogether like body mind dead?
To me, I think she died. That's how
Okay.
I think she. I think that she's just no. Again, having that moment, she is out.
Okay. Nick, any theories you want to bring up, or
Well, I did
you on
not
the
get
same
all
page as
that. I
Connor?
can tell you that. I can tell you I'm not on the same book as Connor. I'm not in the same library as Connor.
Well, you know what? Let's
Uh,
let's wind the wheels back a
I
little bit.
it's
Where
like
is Nick's brain at in this scenario?
I mean, scrambled like a Walmart egg. Honestly, I mean, I did not get all that from watching that scene.
So,
I
Why
can
a
tell you that.
Walmart egg?
so I
mean,
so I take
I
it you
saw that
watched the
scene and
scene
I
and just
just
had
went
the
like, "What the
lower
fuck is
jaw,
this?"
just like, okay.
No,
Like a
it
Walmart egg.
just was more of like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, I mean, obviously, I see that she's seeing her mother, but when she's saying the words, 450 and like three to the left, whatever, I'm like, all right, I'm like, I don't know what this is. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, I'll find out about this later, I'm sure, but at the moment, yeah,
I mean,
I had no idea.
clearly with Rainbow, I mean, it should have been indicated to you guys that she's clearly giving coordinates for where Lucky Charms are located in the country.
They're magically delicious.
Damn, didn't even think of that. My bad. Oh,
But look, you guys
that
had
could be
some
so,
good theories. You just
be
you
so
just weren't on the
stupid.
right track. That's all.
Well, we'll find
Yeah,
out.
I
no.
we do find out. It could be sooner than you think. It could be later than you think. I won't tell you when, but we do find out what they mean. That way you're not. That way it's not in the back of your brain for the rest of the show, wondering, when are we gonna find this shit out?
Mm-hmm.
You do find out. Um,
Okay.
so that kind of wraps up the 11 storyline.
Oh,
And then,
I do want to say. I want to say one more thing though about Hopper is, um, among the stuff that was down there with the stuff was also all of things from Hopper's past. Box that
yeah,
says family. There's a box that says Sarah down there, which I remember is his daughter's name. So
Hopper quite literally buries his emotions.
yeah, that's a very metaphorical way to put it. Yeah, that is very
Yeah,
much like it's buried, and he doesn't want anyone to see it.
and he just needs a little child to break them out.
Let's word it differently, please.
Why? What was wrong with that?
Ah,
11
know.
quite literally breaking into the where he has all his emotions stored and taking them out.
I saw no phrasing issue there,
Sure.
Mister Mind the Gutter.
Yeah.
I have no clue where you
you
were
know
going with
what?
that in the first
Yeah,
place.
well, the committee
Yeah, I can't say
committee.
nothing either.
We're gonna go ahead and revoke that.
Yes, the committee therefore shuts Mitchell the fuck up. If I had a
Committee does not
gavel, I'd
have
smack it.
the committee doesn't have those powers, unfortunately.
I could boot you. I could do that.
Oh, let's do it.
But it's 3 against 1, and this is a democracy.
And that is our
Anyway.
first Star Wars reference of the episode. Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
No, second one. We're talking about Yoda.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
wow.
that's true. That's
Yes, I
true.
lied.
That
Second.
was second.
First Kenobi. So let's move on to the love triangle. I know this was definitely a sour
no.
episode for Mitchell. Hey, this is an important part of the episode. Jonathan and Nancy go on another little love adventure together, and they get
love
stalked.
adventure.
I'm so tired of them and her. She
Let's hear it,
pisses
Nick.
me off.
Let's hear it. What
She
did you
just
have wrong?
pisses me off.
What bothered you about their
God,
adventure?
just
Yeah, I'll defer to Nick
everything.
here.
I'll defer.
Nick, this is your hour. This is your moment.
My hour, God. It's just like everything I think that she does as far as decision making goes. I get it. I'm personally not in her shoes, but it's like if she has options A, B, C, D, and E, she literally doesn't go with any of them and then just does her own and then just goes rogue and then suffers for it later and then cries about it and then the cycle repeats. I'm tired of her. She needs to just go or do something
All right.
useful.
Maybe you shouldn't have watched the show about teenagers.
Jesus.
No,
I
we were
mean,
watching a
what
show
are we
about
doing
Stranger
here?
Things.
Hold on, before you continue, I had to say this because a childhood memory of us just popped in my head. WildCon, bitches! Always sunny.
Ah,
Man.
I have some Always Sunny references for you for the next episode because I already started reviewing it in the case if we did it tonight as well. But you're gonna get some good Always Sunny references in the next episode, so keep those childhood memories intact.
I will, but yeah, that was. It just kind of as Nick's like going through, I just popped my head just to see if him just kicking the back of the door. I think cut the brake line.
Mitchell, I hope you've watched Always Sunny.
I have never watched an episode of that show. Not like out of like defiance or anything. I just haven't seen it.
All right, then we're gonna have to. I'm gonna send you a clip after we record, so you can understand what we're referring to here.
All right.
As the most epic wild card character ever known to man in television and movie, and was definitely an inspiration to our friend group in high school.
It's Charlie Day, by the way, is the
All right.
actor.
But
Oh yeah, I know him. Horrible bosses, man.
but going back to more serious things here, I think this was an important episode because as much as you hate on Nancy, she's got a plan, and I still don't know if this was going out the way she wanted it to. I still can't figure it out because she called Barb's parents probably knowing that the government was listening in, but yet is so completely shocked when they're at a park and oh, Barb's parents aren't there, but oh shit, a whole bunch of sketchy people, most likely the government, are watching us. And my favorite one of all those was that creepy lady that was just standing with that other mom and the kids. You want to tell me that that other mom just had this random woman standing there with these groups of kids who just was like, "Oh, whose kid is yours?" And she's just standing there, just not even watching the kids, just staring off into space. That was that bothered me. That other woman should be ashamed of herself for not being like, "Oh, stranger danger."
Mm-hmm.
But they get obviously picked up by these government workers and brought to Dr. Owens, and Dr. Owens just gives them the full-on tour of Hawkins' lab, which I thought was interesting move, and this definitely starts to show more of a different dynamic between Dr. Brenner and Dr. Owens, whereas Dr. Brenner was just like, I'm not letting anybody in, with the exception of Hopper, and even that was very closed off. This was Dr. Owens basically being, I'm going to be wide open with a couple of teenagers, which was definitely a risky move. And just give him the lay of the land.
No, not risky move.
I
Stupid.
actually
move.
don't think it was risky.
You don't think it was risky?
No, I don't.
Please share.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think
elaborate.
It was, I personally don't think it was risky for that specific moment. To me, it was just like a kind of like a like he just whipped it out and like gave him a threat. It was like, you know what's gonna happen if you say something, right, guys? And then
But he didn't have to bring them all the way down to. Now I do see your point, and I think it was a very bold move of him to bring them down to the gate and basically saying, "This is the shit we're dealing with." But he didn't have to do that. He could have just kept them in those rooms and just verbally threatened them, or just fucking held them there. He could have held them there for a couple of days.
He could have, but I guess thinking of it now, I mean, knowing that they're listening in. Well, I mean, I don't know if Nancy and Jonathan know that, but the fact that they know the lab that they're listening in, it's like they kind of just they kind of have eyes and ears. So I mean,
Yeah.
to make that threat, I don't think is like so outlandish because I mean, it's what they can do.
Yeah.
They can afford it. But I
And
also think that he knows that they're just going to investigate anyway, and I think
yeah.
that by showing them, it's going to prevent them from like trying to maybe, you know, do
And
some
I
more shit.
found
I don't
Dr.
know.
Owens's reasoning interesting in the fact that at least what he told them, Dr. Owens's main reason for keeping everything quiet is because they're afraid of foreign actors such as big old Russia from finding out about this gate and using it to their advantage against the United States. I feel like that should be the least of their worries, like some random alternate dimension, but I can't see Russia just listening in saying, oh shit, the United States found some random gate to some alternate dimension. Let's go attack them. Like, I feel like that's not something that would just break out into international news. But that just seems to be his main area of concern at this point, and that's why they're trying to maintain it and keep it under the radar for everything.
I took it more as like a an ego trip is not the right word because the fact like I think he was trying to. I'm not. He's intriguing to me. I really can't put a finger on how to describe him because the fact that like he's kind of showing his hand in a way, but at the same time, like he's trying to make himself look vulnerable at the same time to them, saying, "Hey, I'm doing I do my part. This is the shit that I'm dealing with. You two already know about this shit in the first place.
Yep.
Obviously, no, this is shit that I'm dealing with. Like, kind of, no, I'm trying to do what's best in the best interest of all of us. Like, trying to play to their patriotic emotions. Obviously, there isn't any, but but like, it's definitely a weird, weird play by him. Like,
Yeah.
definitely bold. No, and I think that he has a situation where he could even feel like he's infallible in a way where like because he definitely feels very egotistical to me. Like he
Yeah.
thinks solely about himself. Like when he's talking to Hopper, it kind of gave push the same way where oh this is it like Hopper's trying to push the blame like hey this is coming from your lab and it's like oh we're not so sure about that like no are you sure you're correct? This looks like funny pictures. Like he looks down on them in a different way than Brenner does. Brenner sees them as threats, like to what he's doing. I feel like Owen sees them as pests.
I also see
And they,
Dr. Owens as being ignorant to what they're actually dealing with because in his mind, they're keeping this thing under control and they think by burning the gate, they're preventing it from spreading. And Hopper is basically slowly figuring out this thing is spreading all throughout Hawkins and show Dr. Owens this. So I'm curious if Dr. Owens actually thinks that all of these pumpkin patches being, destroyed, if that's connected to the gate or if he's like, oh, we've got this thing under control. It can't be us.
but the thing is, like, if he was an actual like scientist, like either he already knows about what's happening, or on the flip side is that he doesn't want to hear it from someone else he thinks who's lesser than him.
Yeah.
And I can see it go either way. Like Hopper, no, definitely no said you're dealing with this now because the fact it's in my town and I've been playing ball with you. If you're not playing ball back, I have dirt on you guys. So I'm curious on. I am very curious on how the what's the way to put it on how he's playing his hand. Is he someone who is very knowledgeable what's going on? I know he's trying to collect data, but the same or is he more so? I'm looking down on you. I don't care what you say. I know it's right.
Yeah.
No, and C doesn't really see them as threats.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, Nick, in the very beginning
Nope.
of the show, you were very clear in saying that you thought Dr. Owens was a bad guy. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nothing's altered your mindset on him.
Nah. Nothing has altered it at all. If
He's still
anything,
a
his
bad
actions have
motherfucker.
only strengthened it. But hey, I could be dead wrong. I fully understand that. But
That's all right. That's why I'm
to me, his actions only further strengthen my opinion.
okay. So we wrap up this chunk of the story with Jonathan and Nancy basically being released with kind of that understanding with Dr. Owens, like, we're all on the same page now. Like, you guys can go, but like, you gotta stop. And they get in the car, which magically starts up, and Nancy holds up her little recording device that we didn't know she had the whole time. And turns out she recorded the entire conversation of Dr. Owens basically completely spilling all the dirty garbage they had, including everything about Barb, which definitely is going to make a big impact on that. But it goes back to my questions from earlier. Did Nancy plan for all of this to happen? And if so, why was she so confused when the government was following them? That's the part that doesn't play out for me. Because, like,
I
when
don't
they were
think
in the
she
park,
planned for it to happen, but
she had that recording device on her the entire time. So,
yeah.
like, when she called Barb's parents, that gives me more meaning to think that she assumed the government was listening. But when they were at the park and Barb's parents didn't show, she seemed confused that Barb's parents weren't there. But she was definitely looking around. You could tell her, she picked out every government agent very quickly. So I
Right.
think she planned for it to happen and she was purposely looking for them. But I still
She
can't
says,
tell for certain.
yeah, I think
That's fair.
I
Yeah.
think she and I think all of us were surprised how much information he gave up.
Yeah.
And I don't think she think it would be that successful. Like I thought she would just plant a seed somewhere with some decent evidence of like, oh, something's going on in this lab. But the fact that she got so much, I think she didn't expect that. She's like, oh, like as he's doing his little as most villains do, they have the little monologue as they go throughout.
Yes.
And as
Which
he's
gives more
monologue,
evidence to Nick's claim that he is definitely a huge bad guy.
yeah. So as he's monologuing, as he's showing off all of the lab that's going down in the bottom of the research center, no, to Nancy, she's like, "Oh, I just hit gold. Like this is going to be really pay off for my plan." And at the very end of the scene, they're leaving Hawkins. So obviously, they're probably, my guess is that they're meeting up with the reporter that Bar's parents hired.
Okay.
So
See, and that only strengthens that he's a bad guy because every bad guy monologues. They love
exactly,
to talk
man.
about
Exactly.
their evil shenanigans. So,
So we shall see what happens with Dr. Owens.
But
But for
here's
now,
my other thing about that, real quick.
Mhm.
After Nancy and Jonathan leave, do we see them again for the rest of the episode? I'm trying to like think back on it.
No, that's where we
See,
left off, is them
No.
Nancy
leaving
Jonathan?
Hawkins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the
No.
last we see of them on that particular episode, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so like here's my thing. They contacted Barb's mom, who answered the phone, correct?
Yep.
There was no phone call afterwards, like nothing of like, hey, where were you? Oh, hey, we didn't see you at the park. Nothing. Sketchy.
Only because I don't think they
Is that
got to.
explained?
They didn't get home to be able. Because remember, this is back in the wonderful world of just landlines. They never got home yet. They had the call with Barb's parents, went to the park, got picked up by the government agents, were brought to Hawkins' lab, and then we see them leaving Hawkins' lab. The bigger
So at
question
this
is,
point, we just don't think we got to that part
where
yet.
did Barb's parents go? Did
Yeah,
they
that's
show up to an
That's
empty
what I
park,
mean.
or
That's
were they
what I
picked
mean.
up?
Is like is like, did they go? Did they go and not see? Like, that's the part that I'm like, maybe we just didn't get there yet. But
And
that's what I
maybe this
thought. I
whole
was like,
time,
huh.
Dr. Owens has been taking out Barb's parents as a cover up.
I mean,
Maybe.
wouldn't-
We shall see.
wouldn't fully surprise me, I guess.
But so let's shift over to the final sections where we have the party. There wasn't really much with them in this episode, surprisingly. The main chunk of their story was Dustin continuously hiding Dart from the party, and the rest of the party still looking for Dart. That was the main chunk of their story arc in this episode. And I find it funny how Dustin became so attached to this random little creature so quickly that he's willing to risk his friendship with his friends over this new just little
And his
little
fucking
creature.
dog. Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Piece of
no, I
shit,
can't get down with
Dustin.
that.
I was
Yeah,
gonna get
dude.
to
I
that
was
in a little
on. I
bit,
was a
but
fan of his, and then that happened. I'm like, yo, you fucking
yeah, I was gonna
dog
get to
pile.
that in a little bit, but yeah, Connor, as a fellow cat lady, how did you feel with this turn of events with Art as
As
you're
he-
holding your cat?
Yes.
Boo!
I love
Boo!
my kitty cat. Right, Gabby? Yeah, she's currently in my lap. You probably heard her on the
You
audio
like her a
earlier.
lot?
Her crying. Yes, I had it for what 9 years now.
That's
So,
not
so
what I thought
you
Mitchell
wouldn't
was gonna
sacrifice your cat for a new little tadpole?
Hell no. Once once I realized like when
Oh, man.
Dustin's mom, the first thing like calling for the cat because funny enough, what's the cat's name? Do you remember or no?
It was Muse.
Yeah, but it's like they call it Mew Mew. That was her name that she was calling for Mew Mew.
Yeah,
Literally
we hear a few different variations. You hear Muse, Musey, Mew Mew, but I think it's MEW is the name of the cat.
yeah. So funny enough, my childhood cat growing up was named Meow Meow. So her calling Mew
Wow.
Mew, I was like,
Did you name that?
uh,
Be honest now.
I think it was my mother who named it. The cat
No,
was old.
it was definitely Connor.
The
My
cat was
head
old.
can't think Connor.
That's a big.
No lie. The cat was older than me. So, yeah. So
Well, wow.
when she's calling for Mew Mew, I was like, oh no, the cat, no. And then then you see the things is a little demigorgon. I'm like, oh,
They did not hold back in the scene either. It made me a
No.
little. I don't like cats, but I was like, it's like they
It
really had
wasn't
to show
Mew.
one eating the
some
cat.
off-screen stuff. It was here you go, dead.
And
It
you
wasn't-
could
Not
hear him
dead.
eat,
It's
eating.
being fucking eaten.
You could hear it being eaten. They see the blood trail, and he's actually eating the cat. And you're like, oh, poor
Like,
kitty.
I didn't need to see that. Like, you could have just shown a tail or something, or like you didn't have to see the whole thing. That scene got me a little bit, but
Also, one thing that
cat.
with that
Did
too.
PETA go after them after this episode, or do we
What's that?
know? Did
Uh,
PETA go after
don't
them
know.
after go after
I
them
don't know
for
if
that
PETA
episode?
showed up or not. That's
Oh,
definitely
okay.
something to look into.
Okay.
Um,
I'm just just curious.
one thing though is that we definitely do get confirmation though that after this thing eats, it gets bigger,
Yes.
and
But more importantly, after it ate, it turned around and we see its head, and oh shit, it's a fucking mini Demogorgon.
yeah, but
That
like
made me very mad with Dustin.
yeah, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Dumbass.
You literally raising the enemy.
Which is funny and ironic with how last season Dustin kept calling Hopper Lando because they thought that he betrayed them. And here he is literally being a Lando Calrissian by harvesting the enemy and basically let his cat die because of it. I thought that was kind of ironic.
That's very funny.
Just another Star Wars reference in there.
Sure, why not?
Can never have too many.
I'm sure you can.
As long as it's focused around the original trilogy, that's all that matters. Or the prequels if it's Obi-Wan.
I like the prequels.
We'll get to that down the road.
Yeah, we won't get into that tangent as always. But again,
Bob.
it's their whole group's motto is "Friends don't lie," and Dustin has done nothing but lie and bend over backwards to protect Dart. And
Damn pollywog.
I just don't understand his reasoning behind doing it, but maybe we'll find out soon. So that kind of wraps up the parties section of it. But the final set of scenes, I think, set up a lot of what's about to happen. And this is what I'm saying. We're starting to get that peak again in the season where things are about to go down. And we have Mike arrive at the buyer's house and just straight up tells Joyce, like, Will dreaming about the shadow monster. Like, he basically straight up tells Joyce, like, I know what's going on with Will. And I was very happy because I know Connor was biggest gripe last season is nobody talks to each other. We're seeing them fix their mistakes from last season. They're finally starting to connect and, say, hey, I know what's going on. Let's try and figure this out. The only person not doing that is Hopper. Hopper is off now doing his own little mini Indiana Jones adventure and finds just a random patch of dirt and just starts digging a hole and just drops straight in, looking straight up Indiana Jones, which Mitchell and I talked about a little bit in a couple episodes ago with our movie reference episode. Hopper's character was actually kind of designed to be based off of Indiana Jones, and I think that scene definitely amplified that because he's got the hat, he rappels in, he's got his little flashlight going on an adventure. Like, it definitely looked like Indiana Jones to me. But
Yeah.
Hopper's now in the upside down, and they do that cool little visual effect with the camera with slowly rotating him upside down to if you
Signify.
still haven't figured out what was going on, we now officially know he's in the upside down. And that ends the episode.
So, and I think this definitely, the theory that I had earlier about when it came to like the ecology of the entities that we're dealing with, like they don't like heat at all, and like it makes sense for them to have tunnels underneath the ground because the fact that if you can't travel during daylight, you need a way to move around the town, and obviously it could be a situation where you, as you mentioned earlier, that when it comes to like wildlife and like fungi and stuff, if you deny if you kill off one spot of it and denying it entry into some area, it's just going to spread around outwards.
Yep.
So it's kind of like that same idea, like, oh, it's creating its own. I forget the right word it comes to funguses, but like it spreads out its own little roots and away from where the gate is because it knows the gate isn't safe. So it's making its own outlets into different safer areas, and that's how it's expanding. At least to me, that looks like it's expanding into different ways compared to how they're anticipating.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But so do you guys have any predictions for what's going to happen in the next episode? Because we have Hopper officially in the upside down. We have Dustin now realizing that he's fucked up and has a mini Demogorgon at home. And Mike has shown up to Joyce to form a new alliance to help figure out Will. The episode title is not very clear for next episode. It's titled Dig Dug, which is one of the video games that Dustin had a high score on in the first episode.
That was my monster video game growing up.
Okay. So you already know
very fun game. I enjoy it.
So that is the title of the episode for next week. So that doesn't really give too much away at all, but
mycorrhizal. That's the name of the fungi roots. We never knew that. Here, Bob. My cat is just crying. Sorry for those in the background. She wants attention.
Yeah. Sorry for all the.
It's not being eaten.
That's not being eaten, people.
That's true.
She's very needy.
You don't have a Demogorgon in your place, do you, Connor?
I do not.
Okay.
You would tell us if you did, right? You're not
Yes,
lying to us.
friends don't lie.
Friends don't lie.
Friends don't lie. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so I did make some predictions throughout our conversation. I forget what
Yes,
they
you did.
were exactly. Um,
Yeah.
definitely Joe Noyce. I just put Nancy and Jonathan. Them going to see Barb's investigator. That was one of them. What was the other one I was talking about? Oh, like the thing that the tunnels of being like a pathway. So there's a lot of interesting things that coming up. I'm very intrigued to see what goes, and of
Okay.
course the MK Ultra stuff too with the
Yep.
mother.
Nick, any big theories, or we kind of cover everything for you?
I think everything for the most part is covered. My main prediction really comes, honestly, mainly from Hopper. I think that, like when he leaves, the buyer's house and he's like, he's drawing vines. Like, I think that's now like his primary focus of like discovering what's in the tunnels, what
Yep.
possibly goes through there, uh, how they're connected, what they're connected to. So I think
Do
like
we think Hopper's going
I
to
think
make it
that's what
out of the
is.
Upside Down alive for the second time?
Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
definitely will.
No,
Hey,
no, no doubt.
there are plenty of boxes currently in his cabin that he has to go through without. So,
Yeah,
Or does Ella,
yeah.
or does Ella now have to go through Hopper's past without Hopper to explain what everything is?
oh
He's too
God,
important a character to die off right now. That's just the truth that I think too.
Well, with that, I think we move on to our ratings
scores.
for the episode.
I'll go first. I'm giving it. I'll give it 8 points. I'll give it 8.6. Trending upwards. That was a good one. I liked it. A lot of good things. My cat is being really loud right now.
I actually heard that.
Yeah,
Cat
she's just
cat lady problems.
she's wailing. She does it sometimes when $5 right now. I bet she's on top of the fridge. She's been doing that a lot lately, where she just climbs on the countertop and on top of the fridge itself.
Nah, she's right behind you. She's about to kill you.
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun, dun,
8.6.
dun, dun.
A lot of escalations. There she is. A lot of escalations. Nancy going rogue and honestly, like, again, trying to carry out her plan. Will getting these extra senses going on. A lot of fun things going on, and I'm very excited to watch the next episode.
Okay. And your Mitchell rating?
Oh, we do it last. We won't do it at the very end.
All right.
We'll do it now, or
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
do it at the end.
Okay. Nick,
So we're doing Mitchell
your
rating
rating,
at the end?
sir?
You're great.
Your
Nick.
rating first.
Just confirming. Okay.
Yeah, you.
So yeah, I know I'm giving mine first. I'd give a bump up from last week, definitely. I'd give it a flat 8. I like flat numbers, so I think it definitely made me want to watch the next one from the standpoint of like, oh, I don't think the next one's going to be a filler, but I can't wait to not see as much of Nancy again. That's what I look forward to every week. I hope I don't see it. So
Team by Nancy.
yeah, team anti Nancy. That's
I'm
right.
just gonna say
I am curious.
you're gonna
to
be
see,
disappointed then, my friend. You're gonna be disappointed.
I know, and I am excited to see like, I guess how Hopper changes his I guess tactics, we'll call it, to parent 11. So yeah. So other than that, for many of the reasons that that Connor said, I'd give it an 8. And I also like the fact that Will's got now that he's kind of possessed, he's got some spidey sense in him.
Oh, good reference, Spidey sense. I like that. So I'm gonna give it a 8.5.
Big jump.
Definitely one of my more favorite episodes. It's not. I like the build up episodes, especially how it ends off. Like a lot of shit's happening. You want to know what happens next. That's what I look forward to in an episode. The Nancy aspect of it, yeah, it just wasn't the strongest point, but I think the evolution of what's going on with Will is definitely what's intriguing me with this season, or it's definitely the more enjoyable part to watch in this season, because we're dealing with possession of a monster from another dimension. So this definitely gave us a lot of insight, and Creepy Will was definitely fun to watch. So 8.5 is what I'm sticking with.
All right, and then my prediction for Mitchell. I think Mitchell goes at 8.21.
Okay, Nick.
Damn. See, I have to change mine now because, like, I
What I
think
guess.
I was gonna go with like an 8.4, so that's like too close.
Not too close.
Uh,
This is Price of Right rules.
Those people are fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Hey,
I
let him
guess.
think. Let him think.
Yeah. Fuck it. I'll just 8.44. Just leave it at that.
Tomas.
Let's go.
Tomas Nito.
Let's do a 7.
Every time you say Tomas, that's what I think of.
All right.
All right.
So
Mitchell,
the time
please
has
reveal.
come.
The time has come.
Connor, you're cheating. You got an 8.21 in here.
No way!
Wow.
Yes!
I don't like
Let's
this.
go!
Wow.
This is,
Wow.
you've
I
done
am
this
leaving.
before, and
I'm out of here.
I feel like you.
Connor, do you have the ability of true sight?
I don't know.
Are you seeing through Mitchell's eyes right now?
My thing is, do you have cameras set up somewhere?
Go play Powerball.
Yeah,
Go play
Probably
Powerball.
Eight
Oh,
point.
man.
Report back
But
the
to
numbers.
give my kind of like why I gave that grade, you know, this definitely ramped up the tension, and we're getting back on track here. That's good to see. But we're not quite to where we were, but we're also not in the depths of hell that we've been in. So nice to be back.
Yeah. So with that, we're gonna look forward to episode Dig Dug next week. So let's wrap this bad boy up.
All right. Follow us on our socials, Stranger Nerds on Instagram, Twitter, and all the other socials. I just recently got a Blue Sky notification, so hopefully that will be opening up soon as well. So, yeah, who knows? I've been on the waiting list for like 3 months, and then finally I got an email like, oh, you can sign up now. So we'll find out. But until next time, was for episode 5 of season 2, Dig Dug. Have a good one.